Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in all the way from Athens, Greece, we have Johan Blende. How you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I guess it's a little bit of nighttime over there for you right now, correct?
It's close to nighttime. Well, it is nighttime. It's 11. So,
11
yes.
o'clock. That's not too bad. I really want to thank you for coming on the show today. And
My
got a
pleasure.
lot to talk about because you've been quite busy these last few months working on some stuff. And going to dive right into it. Your latest releases. You just came out with now, which one came out first? On a String or Tenor?
Both.
Oh, they both at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a 2-track EP, so it's
Oh,
literally at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I wasn't clear on that because I'm getting kind of debriefed as of late on the label production side of things, because we're getting ready to launch our own label over here at the DJ Sessions soon. So I heard that sometimes people release tracks, but I just realized I didn't realize I should have seen that because it was the same album cover on the front. That it was an EWP track. Well, I was listening to him before the show started, as I always do with the guests, and I really loved them. And one of my DJs came on and said, "I'm really feeling this guy."
I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that.
Could you describe for our DJ Sessions fans who haven't heard your tracks or your style of music in 3 words? How would you describe your music?
Oh, okay. It'd be quite okay. Retro would be one word.
Okay.
Uh, Obviously disco because I can't seem to shake it somehow. And thought through. That's 4 words. Thought through. Disco retro thought through.
Through.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
long did it take you to produce each of those tracks? Are you pretty quick in the studio, or is this something that took a while? Or
I'm very quick to come up with the ideas. So I always sit. I sit for a while, obviously, like everyone else does, and then you come up with something, and then it's you can sit for a day or two, or you can sit for months, and then nothing comes out. But then I tend to have, like, the idea is very easy. I mean, it can take me 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then you sit there and then you think, like, well, okay, right. So what do I do now? Now that's when it gets a little bit tricky. So, and I'm sure many people can relate to this, but it's that the first thing is always the easy bit, because then you come up with something that is, I say 20 minutes. That's a little bit optimistic, but let's say maybe an hour or 2 hours. And then you have something and you think, like, well, you know what, this is something pretty good, and this is going to be all right. And this is going to take me how long to finish? Maybe 3-4 hours at best. And then you sit there for weeks or months possibly, and it's just, you're still there, and it's like, no, what the hell was this? That's how I make music, basically. So I come up with something in 20 minutes, and then I finish it 2 years later. That's my ideal way of doing things.
do you have a pretty big unreleased vault of stuff that you're constantly working on at all the times? Like, how many tracks would you say that you have unreleased that you'd still be currently constantly working on?
It depends on how you define the How do you define a track? I mean, like, is it a drum beat, or is it a little loop of I mean, it's hard to say, right? But
I guess, do you name your tracks before you create them, or do you name them after?
I name them in a way that I put a date to it.
Okay.
And this came. I don't remember. There was this Swedish guy called Thomas Anderson. He's still called Thomas Anderson, I think. a techno producer and DJ that I remember I met him like years and years and years ago when I used to live in London, which was only like a month ago actually. But anyway, now I don't anymore. But back then when I lived in London, in this was in maybe mid 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this guy called Thomas Anderson, who was he was sort of a friend of a friend, and he was DJing, and I spoke to him a little bit, and he was telling me about this process that he had, and I think I'm quite similar to him in that sense. I just felt like, well, okay, so instead of coming up with these random names, when you want to name a track that you're working on, you come up with something that is, how do you remember? Like if you call a track a chair, or a glass, or just random names, or Spectre, or Mackie, or whatever it could be, or TDJs, let's say that. How do you remember that's what it was? Instead, what you do is you date them. And I thought, wow, okay, that's genius. So all I do, I don't have track names. I date the tracks that I make, and I date them. So it's what would today be like? I wouldn't be
8/30/22.
Yeah, well, you're American, so that's different.
Oh yeah, it's 38/22.
Yeah, that's the one. So that's how I do them, and then you sit there and come up with a silly name eventually. I mean, and because I suppose most people, they do it the other way around, and they stick to the silly name, and then it comes out with a silly name. I still come up with silly names, but at least I do it that way around rather than the other way around.
So are you a hardware producer or software producer or both?
But I mean, these days software. I used to be hardware. I used to go back and forth a lot. I own a lot of hardware that I could use, but it's all sort of spread around. Well, 3 countries now, effectively. So I don't really have most of it anymore with me. So I tend to I use software only because it's a lot simpler.
Mm-hmm. What are you using right now?
It's Logic. I've always been a Logic man. I think I started off maybe it must have been 20 years ago almost. I bought some software from a Swedish company called Propellerheads. Recent. Yeah. And
I remember that.
I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I bought it, and I thought, wow, let's give this a go and see what happens. And then eventually, because I remember actually at the time I was doing it for a little bit, and I had I wouldn't call it success, but I had some sort of early interests, because the only thing I really wanted was to send out music to see if someone liked it, or not. And then I sent out these songs, and they were terrible. I mean, I'd done literally, I didn't know what I was doing, and I'd done maybe 4 or 5 songs in my entire life, and I sent them out to record labels, and one picked one up. And I just thought, wow, okay, so I must have a talent here, don't I? That's what I thought at the time. And it was signed to this record label. I can't even remember what it was called. It was sort of like a compilation. And then that led to like a remix, and led to a little bit of like meeting up with some people in the scene at the time, and this was in Sweden, by the way, like back in the days when I still lived in Sweden, and I remember I met this friend of mine that was well, actually he was more like an acquaintance, and he told me about Well, I hadn't seen him for maybe 6 or 7 years or something like that. And last time I saw him prior to this moment was when he was like a thug, and he was I remember he was hanging around these parties with us, and like we was a little bit scared of this guy basically, and he was. Uh, but he was always around the scene. So we weren't quite sure what to make out of this guy. But anyway, I saw him, and he told me, well, you need to make music with Logic. That's the way to do it. So I thought, okay, I'll get Logic then, and see what I can do with it. I didn't understand anything of that either. So, but I was hell bent on that since that day happened. So I thought, well, that's the way forward, and that's what I've been doing since. So my hat off to him, even though he was a thug. He taught me something at least.
Logic is a great piece of software. I've always been captivated by it, especially when I used to work for the company and was a certified trainer, so I could train people how to use Logic. I couldn't teach them how to make music necessarily. I could show them how to maybe use samples and put them and arrange them. And I love the sequencers on the back end on it. At one point, I had a little MIDI keyboard in my house. I dabble, and when I say dabble in music production, it's probably more taking samples to that, take the loops and drop them all in and compose something that way, which I guess is making music, but I would do it for like back end soundtracks for our TV shows that we were producing. If I needed a quick jingle, or if a customer or client needed a quick jingle, I could go in and make them a quick basic jingle for their commercial. And I always found it fascinating, but again, sequencers were always my kind of, like, playing with sequencers, samplers were always my thing. And I used to have the Roland MC505 and the SP808.
Oh
and
yeah,
I'd
yeah.
MIDI them together, and just always like being able to touch the knobs, turn the knobs, tweak the song. And my friend and I would just get together. We'd go to his house after in college, and I'd set those down on the coffee table. We'd just be playing with them for 6-7 hours. Just, let's try this. Okay, I'm not feeling that anymore. Let's go over here and try this song out. We put something on and just switch it up, and that was always a lot of fun.
I've been there too, my friends. I've been there too.
So do you go into music production with the intention of making it a popular song, or do you make music just to solely satisfy yourself, and success is a nice side effect from it?
Yeah, the latter. I don't think I've ever done it the first way. What did you say? Just to make a popular song?
Just
No,
to make a popular track.
I have never done it that way in my life. Because I don't think I can. I mean, I genuinely don't think I can. I mean, because I don't even know what a popular song would be. I'm so out of touch with. And this is true, by the way. I haven't got a clue. I listen to some popular music every now and then, and it's just, to me, it's. I just don't get it, really. I mean, I understand what was going on, and I can hear like there's some good music in there every now and then, but no, I find it very, very, very tricky to. I can't write like that. I can't think of a formula and then think like, well, okay, this is what I should be writing, rather than what I feel. I mean, it's sort of like, sometimes I wonder a little bit, actually, do people write music like that in reality? I mean, like, do they think like, okay, so this is what inspires me, and which is fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of inspiration coming in my way also, right? So, but do they write music thinking like, well, okay, so I love to sound a bit like this, but what's in the charts sound like this, so therefore I'm going that way. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I've never done that. But having said that, I mean, absolutely, that I can go off on a tangent when I'm trying to make something, and it goes a little bit different to what I usually would go for, and like try and pitch to anyone, to my labels or whatever. I mean, it would be. Yeah, I feel like it's a good thing to keep an open mind, basically.
Mhm.
And I'm all for that.
Did you ever go back and get any formal training, or have you always been I got the software, I got this gear, and I just go for it and make it? Is that your approach? And just over
Yes.
time, you've kind of learned.
100%, 100%. I mean, I've been in so many sessions with people where I've sat, you know, it's been set up through managers and things, and we've sat in you know, in studios, and sort of like, okay, so let's see where we can go here, right? Okay, so what are we going to do today? And I'm sitting down there thinking, okay, yeah, what are we going to fucking what are we gonna, what are we going to do to what are we actually going to do today? Because I'll tell you this much, I can't play anything really. I mean, I can play a big guitar, you know, if you want an A or a C, I can do that. But you know, oh, you want the C on a piano? Well, I can do the C actually. That I can do, and some of the basic chords. But that's it. I mean, you know, I've got nothing to add. When we sit down in the studio, like a writing session in the studio, forget it. It's never going to happen.
Because you know,
we tried, and you know, yeah.
One of the questions we kind of frequently ask on the show here is, should DJs learn music theory, or does that matter much when it comes to dance music? You know,
yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, being self-taught, you know, is it just you had an ear, it started falling into place, or was there 5,000 crappy songs and then one hit up? You said you had kind of success early on, and it kind of was that the catalyst moment for you, and you said, oh, I don't need any schooling for this? And yeah.
No, it was actually okay. Let's put it this way: if you become a DJ because of love of music, as in like, and you've had music in your life since the beginning, and you have a big advantage there already, right? I mean, like, so. But then again, what musician doesn't have the love of music in their life from the beginning anyway, I suppose. But I think one thing, like, it should DJs have, what you didn't say an education, did you?
Not an education, just understand music theory, learn music theory.
Yeah. Okay, right, yeah. I'd say yes. In at least in theory. I mean, like, for me, it would have been helpful. But I not as a DJ, that makes no difference whatsoever. But as a producer, absolutely. But even as a DJ, I believe that certain, like, it's more. I mean, DJing is about rhythm, really, isn't it? I mean, whether you're, you know, I mean, if you're a DJ, you're sort of like a drummer with one arm. No, actually, that sounds wrong. You're a drummer using mainly one arm. Does that make sense? As in, like, the arm. I'm going back to vinyl days here, right? Like, you know, the one you're scratching with, right? So your left arm, your right arm, if you're no, it's always the left arm. But so I'm thinking, you know, that is the drumming bit of DJing.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever experimented with mixing audio and video at the same time, and if not, would that be something that you'd look to do in the future?
I've never done it, but I've seen it, and I find that. In fact, one of the most fascinating gigs I ever went to was I can't remember what they were called. They were so good. It was just like a local. It was a local gig in London, in central London, though. I mean, you know, so it was a proper bar, and, like, you know, it was these two guys that were syncing the DJ gigs with visuals, and it was just it was mind blowing. The whole thing was mind blowing to me, and it's still to this day. I think it's one of the best things I've ever seen. So I would love to. but I'm happy just to do a bit of DJing. So that's enough for me.
Do you think that electronic music has become too commercial?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I suppose so. As in, right. I, that's a good thing, by the way. I think it's a good thing. It's it, I don't mind electronic music being commercial. That's a good thing. It's always. I mean, like, why do you do music to start with, right? I mean, you do music because you want to share whatever you have going on uh, musically in your life, and then that's it. So, and you do that electronically, and that's really good. However, too commercial, that depends on how you define commercial. I mean, I think there's always going to be a little bit of an underground scene anyway going on.
Mhm.
I mean, well, obviously, because not everyone can make it, especially these days. I think. So yeah, overall, it's a good thing. I think it's when the commercialism dictates what it sounds like, then it becomes something that is a little bit more destructive than productive. That's how I see it. But so far, I think it's a good thing. I think it's actually a really good thing, especially considering, because I remember back in the I was born in 1980, sadly. Um, because it's a long time ago. And back then, I remember when I started doing this, or when I started DJing at least, it was it was out of a love for the music, and also, but also, and even more importantly, so it kind of felt like it was this thing that was a little bit. It was unusual, and you was a little bit more special. People didn't know about this. It was like you had your own world going on, and all of a sudden, I mean, so this was maybe, I don't know, mid to late 90s, and at least, yeah, I don't know, that lasted probably, for me at least personally, but I got to know about it in the early 90s. And then I thought, like, well, that's a great way of making music, and a great way of making a living, and everything was like, wow, this could actually be something here. And then I'd say about, I don't know, it lasted what, like 15 years, mid to late 2000s. All of a sudden, you started seeing these, the pop music that was coming out. It was very, I don't know, it felt, it was a bit, there was a bit less soul in there. And they'd embraced, obviously, this electronic music side of everything. And then all of a sudden, it became a little bit less attractive. And so, yeah, it was. So, what was the question, actually?
Did EDM become too commercial?
Yes.
And
And no. And no.
yeah, do you feel
Yeah.
that the line between DJing and producing has gotten smaller?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it started a long time ago. I mean, even back then, even when I started, in fact, I mean, like, that's the reason why I started producing, because I was generally just interested in DJing. I had no interest in producing, or rather, I was just scared to do it, because I knew that, well, who's going, but they want to listen to my music, my three-strum chord music. I'm not so sure about that, so I'm gonna I'm gonna have to stay with DJing. And then I realized, yeah, I mean, now it's almost, it started going hand in hand even back then. And I mean, like, obviously, electronics have been uh, brilliant for this. I mean, you know, now you can actually you can do all this. I can do things I only dreamed of when I started making music. Now with a computer, all I need is a computer, and I couldn't do any of that. I mean, I can. When I started making music, I thought that. Um, you're very like, yeah, you can make a little bit of music, you can use a computer and it sounds like, you have your kicks and your snares and all that stuff, and it sounds like that, which is basically what people were doing in many instances back then, right? So but now it's it's completely different. Now I can orchestrate something, and I can almost, or very nearly make it sound real. And that to me is that's quite something.
Has your has your musical taste changed over time, or has it always been that disco? What were the three words? Thought through and techno. Was it techno? Was it techno? Disco tech. So
It wasn't techno. It
wasn't
wasn't techno.
techno. What was it? It was
That wasn't the word. But
no.
yeah,
What was the word? It was disco. You know what? I got. You know what? I wish I had a way I could go back and like read the closed captions of this, but I'm gonna pull something
I
up
can't
for you.
remember either. I can't remember either. It was disco, thought through, and God, I don't know, what was it?
I can't remember what that third one was.
Let's
But
pretend it was techno. Let's pretend it was techno.
but have your musical taste changed over time, or have you always been focused on your core productions? At the core.
No, big time, big time. It's been changing since the start. It was changing for me. I started off being a big disco man, mainly because of being born the year that I was. And then you go through school, and kids are not interested in the same music that you are interested in necessarily, so you adapt and you're like, oh yeah, I love this song, never heard of it, but yeah, I love it. You make up all kinds of things, and then you move on to something else, and then you find some people, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a woods somewhere in Sweden, and then they're playing these trancey type songs, and you're like, well, I really like trance music. You'd never heard it before, of course, but wow, now I like trance music. So and then you move on to something else, and you move on to something else, and blah blah blah, and eventually you end up exactly where you started, i.e. disco in my case. So, so that's been the journey. I've been through it all because I just didn't know that. Just trust your instincts, man. I mean, that's what I should have done, and here I am.
And if you took a look at the list of productions, tracks you've produced, or even EPs that you've done so far, which of those stands out to you the most, and why?
Okay, I actually think the ones that I made that were a little bit less successful. Hold on, I think I have something in my head. Some of the ones that were a bit less successful, I always felt it's sort of like it's a bit like when you I can imagine. I don't have any kids, by the way. I have a stepdaughter. That's all I have. But when you make a child, and you look at the ones that are really successful or whatever, and then you look at the ones that let's say you make 10 children, right? And two of them, one becomes Neil Armstrong, the other one is George Bush. I was going to say who's who's a better president.
Not George Bush.
No, it's senior, not junior.
Uh,
Yeah, and, and then so you have Neil Armstrong and George Bush Senior, and then you have George Bush Junior in the
yeah.
end, like in the background, and you think like, do you know what? He was all right. He's all right. My old George Senior, no, sorry, Junior. And then yeah, that's sort of like the kid. You feel like, well, I need to protect them a little bit. So it's some of the ones that did less well. I feel that those are the ones that I like the most.
It's funny you use that analogy because I had somebody, I think it was last week, almost use the exact same sentence, saying that they're like children and you put them out into the world and some might grow and some
Yes.
might never go anywhere.
Wow.
And
It was. Was
I
it?
would.
Have we done this before?
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure who exactly. I hang on. Let's see who I had on last week. It could have been Dan Marciano.
Oh, I love Dan Marciano.
Could have been Dan Marciano. Yeah, it could have been. I think it was Dan Marciano.
Right.
Said it. Yeah, well,
So
great interview. Fun stuff.
I love him like a brother. Clearly, he is my twin brother.
Do you ever sometimes get fed up and frustrated with making music? And what do you do if that happens?
Yes. I actually, I mean, I had a bit of a break recently from making music. I haven't had a break from making music recently, but I had a break from releasing music because I was frustrated with the process, and I felt that when you reach a point where it's sort of like it's not fun anymore, then that's the problem, right? So the only way to remedy that is to find something else to focus on. And that's always been the case, I suppose. I mean, and this is not groundbreaking whatsoever, obviously, but find something that is equally important, because for most possibly musicians, music is the most important thing in their life, and it's always going to be. I mean, like it's sort of like it's such a vocation, right? Like doing music is not, you're not doing it for the money. I mean, like people end up making money as a byproduct. It's not because you really want to be there doing music. And sorry, you don't want to be there making money. Then you should be, a banker, for example. But so that's the thing. I mean, like you lose touch of it, right? So and you have to start focusing on what really makes sense about it. And I think, like for me, that's how I've managed to get back into falling in love with music again, or making music more like, and even listening to it. I mean, like, you have to focus on other things every now and then. I mean, it can't be all music. So have a break. Yeah, that's my top advice.
Producing music can stand synonymous with spending a ton of time sitting in front of the computer or working in the studio. What are some of the things you do health wise? How do you stay fit and not get that extra 25 pounds of sitting in the chair all the time?
Okay. I eat well.
Okay.
Well. That's that. In fact, that's the only thing that I can say, because I drink too much wine, lots of other vices, but I eat well. That's my yeah. Eat well, as in like eat not too much, and eat a lot of fish and veg, and yeah, that's it.
Is that a big thing in Athens? Is fish one of the main staples? Like here we got steak,
Yeah,
chicken, pork,
yeah.
and then
So
maybe fish is our fourth one in the States here. I mean, I live in Seattle, so we got a lot of seafood here. But
it, it just so happens it is fish and veg that is the main staple here. So you don't like move to Athens. Okay, sorry, but what did I say? Eat well. Move to Athens and just eat. That's how you stay. Yeah, you stay
what
all right that way. So
wasn't it? Was it a Greece thing or an Italy thing? They said that drinking a glass of red wine every day, at least one glass of red wine every day. Okay, yeah, here we go. We got another infiltrator.
Oh,
This is Yama. Earlier pre-show was Cobalt. This is
I've
little brother wanting some attention.
got mine here somewhere.
But they
Yeah,
say drink a. You mentioned you drink wine, and it's like drink a glass of wine a day, or obviously it helps to kind of thin the blood. It's good. It's not necessarily processed or hard alcohol in the sense, but
yeah.
and they say they have a great long lives. They live long. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, I think. I mean, I'm about to find out. Give me 50 years, and I will be there. And then I will
Awesome.
if you call me in 50 years' time, I will tell you exactly how well it works. That's
It'd be pretty amazing if I was doing these at 98 years old.
well. You have to drink more wine.
I
That's
have to drink more wine. Yeah. Okay.
drink more wine, eat more fish, and
Fish.
and then that's it. I mean, I think well, when it comes down to it, I mean, it's just all of a balance of doing things, right? I mean, like, yeah, I sit down a lot, and I'm aware of that. So therefore, just keep everything on a bit of a low down. And I succeed better in certain ways than others. I drink a bit more than I should, but I eat less than I should. Also, I should not. Like, so I think it's the balance. It's a life balance,
And outside of taking care of your health and yourself, when it comes to record labels, what is the most important thing that a record label should do for their artists? And are they on a whole doing a good job with that?
Historically or right now?
I guess with digital distribution being so prevalent nowadays, I mean, over the last, with advent of beat ports or Spotify or even iTunes or being able to put. I remember in 2003 when the first iPod came out, and it's like I can put 5,000 songs on this thing, and it was like
Yeah.
whoa, or no, I think it was 1,000 songs at
Yeah.
first. And you didn't have the accessibility. You still had to go buy a CD, which is a physical copy, then play it on your device. And there were no CDJs. I don't think CDJs were out at that time. So you were in a kind of an all vinyl world, or there might have been the basic first round CDJ 400s or something. I had people telling me stories back in the day. They'd take two Discman and they put one Discman here, a mixer here, and another Discman here, and then mix with CDs off the Discman, popping in all their different CDs that they own. But I mean, I guess I would say now are record labels doing a good job now, because now everyone seems like they're starting up a record label, and it's that easy to say, oh, I got my own label, I'm releasing my own stuff here, let me try to get my own stuff up the charts. So yeah.
Right. I'm sort of I'm thinking like a little bit of both worlds could work. That's how I see it. That's certainly what I'm trying to explore. I'm planning on doing something that is just me, and is going to be something I haven't. This is the scary bit. I've never tried it before, but then I know so many people that have gone down this route, and they've done, it works fine. I mean, basically what you're trying to say isn't needed anymore. I guess yes, because it depends on who you're with, and like who are you trying to reach, basically. If you're trying to reach, it's all about channels. Like who will be interested in the music that you're releasing, and how do you reach those people? How do you reach that audience, etc. Right? I don't think I personally could reach any of that audience myself organically. I'd have to pay people to do that. So that means I'm having to put money into reaching anyone that might be interested in my music, or just hope for the best, like putting it on Spotify, for example, right? Whereas record labels, you assume that you go with the one, or rather, like if they are interested in releasing one of your songs, they would have to reach the people that you wouldn't be able to reach on your own without paying any money yourself, right? That's how I see it. Basically that's what it's come to. I mean, but I think that was the truth also even 35, 40 years ago. I mean, like it was sort of not necessarily. Then there was distribution, right? I mean, distribution has been simplified, and things are sort of like, you upload things and everything happens instantly almost.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas back then, you had to press all these vinyls, and it was a lot more hard work. But if you managed to hit the right distributor, that was what was important back then. The distributor, because it distributes the music to the right place for you to be able to sell it, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, yeah, it's more about you upload some songs onto the internet. Who's going to listen? That's all it is. And yeah, maybe no one. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's still, I see a lot of people out there now. I just release my own stuff and it gets out there. But I've talked to some of the biggest names in the industry, and they'll be hit up by people to get access to their own songs. Like I was talking with Cut Chemist, and he says, "Yeah, my friends come to me, or people that I know say, hey, I'd like to use this track in a movie. Can I do it?" He goes, "Sorry, I don't own the rights to it anymore. I can't give you authorization on that because it went over to this production house, and they own the rights to it to do it. Or they can give it, but then they got to go get it also cleared from the label, whoever the rights management holders are, and all that fun stuff." And a lot of artists now holding on to the creation of their own music. You have the algorithms, like even being able to play their own music. Once they submit it up, they'll get flagged on YouTube, they'll get flagged on Facebook, they'll get flagged on Twitch, and they're like, how am I getting flagged for using my own music?
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see a lot of, over time, with avenues of being able to, like you said, self-distribute. Back in the day, I think my friend, when I met him, he used to do the music for my TV shows. I think at that time he had 10 albums that he had submitted to CD Baby, and then CD Baby would put them into iTunes for him. He goes, "These are my albums. They're actually released. They're my label. They're my tracks. I own all the rights to them." And he'd register them all with BMI and CSAC and ASCAP and the whole route. He'd do the whole kit and Google himself. And but he still could not get any distribution as an artist. And, one of the ideas that I told him back at the time, I said, "Hey, go and make, go make 100 CDs and then go around to all of our local music stores and sell them each those CDs for like $3 or something, whatever they buy them for. Sell them for $2. And then you got this whole list of saying, I am distributed here. Become your own self-distributor, and see if these local shops would pick up your own tracks, and listen to them and get them out there." But I mean, nowadays everyone's so quick to fire off and get up the Spotify charts and all that fun stuff, or list on
but then again, to be fair, I mean, like, I remember back in those days, I know for a fact that like there were people that were doing that. Like they were literally, like when you're pressing up vinyls and then selling it on like off the back of your car boot, whatever it was. And they made like I remember back in those, actually, like have heard stories at least. I don't remember. I wasn't involved in actually on the back end of it, but I've heard stories about like back in those days when you sold 10,000 copies, that was average. 10,000 copies of a vinyl record was average. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just incredible to me. I mean, like, we're talking about like 10,000 records. Daft Punk will struggle to shift 10,000 records. And I mean, and obviously, yeah, all the streaming and they'll be fine. Fine. I'm not worrying about Daft Punk, but it's a little bit like, well, come on. It's, that was back then, that was sort of average. So obviously there was a living to be made out of it, and that was brilliant. I, I'm sad I missed out on all that. So the first record I ever released, it was in Germany. I signed this. Sorry, my first ever EP I released, I should say. I signed a record label in Germany. It's called Plasma Pool. It was, it's sort of like a electro house kind of thing. Anyway, it was actually a great label. As in, like, they were very fair. Everything was fair, and it was all going like swimmingly for a while, etc. But I remember that record when it came out. I think that one. I don't think it was the first one. It was the second one. It was something like that. It sold 3,000 copies. That was in 2006. I mean, like, can you imagine? I mean, like, Daft Punk would be. Okay, I say Daft Punk again. Yeah, why not? Daft Punk was to be like, yeah, 3,000 copies. Nice. That would be the reaction for them. So I just don't really. I don't get it.
Awesome. Is there something you'd like to say to new and up and coming producers to watch out for when it comes to making their career successful?
Yeah, maybe take your time with it. That would be my. In fact, I think that's what I did wrong. Yeah, take your time, because it takes a while to get good at anything, right? I mean, like, I've been DJing since the mid-90s, and I'm not touring the world now. I used to, but the production, all of it takes time. It just yeah, give it a bit of time, and you'll get better, and eventually, you'll get there.
I think one of the first questions I asked was to a friend of mine, a promoter here in Seattle, and he was doing shows, and I had him on the couch, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, is there anything as such as what's called a Cinderella, an overnight success in this industry?" And he goes, "The people I work with will tell you all before they made it, they were working really hard. It took them time to get to where they're at. There's not really an overnight big sensation."
Yeah.
But nowadays, you can get people that are going viral on TikTok and getting 50 million views of their stuff. And, and they just came right out of left field. And it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Where'd they come from? They might have only been on there for a year or two. But, it's very interesting in our world. I think the conversations we were having back then weren't so internet based, because this is probably like 2000. Oh gosh, this might have been 2006, 2007. So I wasn't even live streaming, let alone the video iPod had just come out. So, internet in your pocket wasn't like the iPhone came out in 2007. So we didn't even have that going for us at the time to Shazam a song or watch a YouTube video on the go or whatever it was. So, but yeah, it took a while back in the day. And nowadays it's kind of like, does that happen faster or can it happen slower? I think patience would be one of the words I would tell somebody. Just have patience. That's one of the things I've had to learn over the years, and especially when certain things happen, where certain things get shut down for a long time, and you've been building everything up for years, and then boom, and now you got to kind of reinvent that wheel all over again and learn a whole new level of patience, and stuff. It's cool.
But that's the struggle as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, because you think you know something, and then you have to. You think you know what patience is, but then now it's a whole different ball game, right? And
exactly.
Don't let. Okay, so let's put it this way: I don't let frustration get the better of you. That would be my advice to these young kids. How old are these kids? Are they like
just new and up and coming producers? I should say anyone that's new and up and coming.
If they're younger than 15, then do something else. That would be my.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else, Johan, that you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know before we let you go?
Yes. Come to Greece. Come to Greece for a better life. And I mean, where are they coming from? You don't know them all, do you?
Know them all what?
You don't know them personally all.
Who, the
viewers.
The people, all my fans that are watching?
Yes.
No, I don't know each one of them personally. Okay, I know some of them personally. So I was like, what are you talking about?
No, I'm saying come to Greece if you can. That's what I was going to say. So, if you do know them all, then you can tell them personally.
Definitely. Well, I'm looking at putting some stamps in my passport in a few months here. I'll be going over to Amsterdam. I won't be making it Greece this time around, Athens, but definitely want to go and do a tour. If I go there, I definitely want to try to spend like a month and a half, and go to a lot of different places, and try to see it. And when I went to college in 2001, first time, I was supposed to do a European vacation, and I was like Poland, Italy, Greece, like a whole tour of stuff. And with my philosophy teacher at the time, we were this close to going, but then they kind of shut down travel because of 9/11. It was like, oh, that sucks. Wow. Like they shut down all the foreign exchange student travel programs at that time, or at least they shut down the ones we were doing at our school. And it was kind of like, shucks.
Okay.
So, and then I've just been working hard ever since, and now I'm getting excited to go out and see more of the world and kind of have fun with that. Well, thank you again, Johan, for coming on the show. If you're out there in DJ Sessions land, or on the interwebs, check out his latest EP release with the 2 tracks, On a String and Tenor. And where can people find out more information about you and what you have going on, Johan? Best place to go.
Yeah, SoundCloud and blende.co.uk. That's the one. Subscribe there. No, there.
It takes me a couple times to do it too, but now that I know where to go, I know to go. It's right there. or if I really want to, I could do this. Now it's right below you.
No, now I can do it. Yeah, no, it's still wrong. Still wrong. That's the one.
That's the one right there. Well, thank you again for coming on the show, Johan. We'll be touching base with you for the next years to come, and staying involved with everything that you have going on.
I hope so. Lovely to see you, Darren.
Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
And on that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, Meta, Twitter. We're out there in VR land. Find us on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Google Play, and soon to be Apple TV. Or just go to our website, thedjsessions.com. This is Darren, coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington. And that's Johan coming in from Athens, Greece for the DJ Sessions presents the virtual sessions. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.
Okay.